We're already in July? Good grief, June just zipped right by, didn't it? Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another monthly wrap-up. This for June of 2026. The halfway point of the year has officially come and gone. We are there, guys. 2026 zipping by at a lightning pace, as did my reads for this month. Some really good reads, and we're going to talk about those all today. Again, like usual, talk about what I read in the month of June. I read 4 novels. That seems to be my average pace at this point, and I'm quite happy with that. I think that 50 books a year, that's a pretty good pace. I have no problems with that pace whatsoever. I feel like it's comfortable, it's achievable, and it's not one of those things where I'm saying, hey, I read 33 books last month, because I can actually remember everything that I wrote about. Not taking any shots or anything. I'm just bringing up a point that, I don't think that 4 books a month is a lot. I really do not. But let's talk about those 4 books. Let's begin with Eldest. Now, this is book number 2 in the Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini. At this point, if you've been here a while, you know the myth behind this book is that this is my 3rd attempt at the book, and none of them were really a rage quit or anything like that, especially not the second one. That was just a victim of the numbers game when I first started this channel. But this was the first time I got through the entire book, and I'm mostly happy. I talked about it recently in a weekly update that my biggest problems with it are a lot of the criticisms everybody threw at me when I first started talking about reading this series and kind of completing it for the first time, was that, he really liked the original Star Wars trilogy. I'm like, well, so do I. And at the time I said, it's just the Campbell's hero's journey, right? Not in book 2. Book 2 is very much, I really liked Empire Strikes Back the first time I watched it. I didn't need to read it. But overall, there's lots of things I liked about it. The training stuff was really good. I actually was quite satisfied with that. That's what I think is going to keep me pushing forward. So I'm hoping now at this point, there aren't Ewoks in Brissinger. That's kind of my hope at this point. But I did really enjoy finally finishing this book. I had a good time with it mostly. The Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre by Philip Fracassi is definitely in contention for my best title of any book I'm going to read this year. This one I meant to read last spooky season, was actually on my list. I just kind of ran out of time last year, but I wanted to get on here rather early, and I didn't want to save it for next spooky season because I was like, I don't feel like I want to do that, and then I have to push it off again or something. So I want to kind of get it in early, as I've been doing with a lot of horror books, getting them in earlier in the year. This was a good time. I had a good time with it. Very good mystery. Kept me guessing right up to the end, and I think that Philip Fracassi is definitely an author whose future I'm going to watch with great interest, because so far he's 3 for 3 for me. This isn't quite as good as Boys in the Valley, but I think it was definitely better than the Third World Time Travel, so somewhere in between those two. But very good show by Mr. Fracassi. Unsold by Neil Shusterman. This is book 3 in the Unwind dystology, as I've learned it is called, the dystology for dystopian, right? Because I was like, why is it not quadrilogy? Apparently, that is short for the dystopia-ology. Anyway, he's more creative than I am, okay? With this, I felt like it was very much a setup book, not in a bad way, just kind of moving all of our pieces into place for the final book in that series. I think it's called Undivided. I don't know the naming mechanisms, and they're reaching, realm of the elderlings levels of difficulty in remembering. I really have enjoyed the series. I would say it's my least favorite of the 3 books I've read so far, but that's just because when you're ranking something has to come in last. So it's definitely not a book I'm saying that I disliked or anything, but it was one of those where I'm like, okay, I like what you're doing here. You're getting all your players in the right place, but book 4 better hit, because I feel like you could have told this in a trilogy. I'm thinking right now, I feel like you could have told this in a trilogy if you didn't do this, but we'll see. We'll see. I should be doing the last book in that series relatively soon. It's not going to be in July, but relatively soon. I will be finishing it this year and getting it off the list. But I've got no red flags like I did with Ark of a Scythe. At the moment, that can change really quick. But Neil Shusterman, I feel like he writes uncomfortable topics. Something that's very much going to make people argue. He writes it in a way that it feels approachable for everybody. You don't have to believe or be against anything or anything like that. He handles some of the social issues with tact, and I appreciate the way that he does, and he continues to do it here with Unsold. And then Magic Bites by Ilona Andrews is book 2 in the Kate Daniels series. And as much as I said, I thought book 1 was decent, this was good. This was really good. This I can see now why Buffy fans told me they think that I would like this, because I really like Kate. I think she's got just enough quips and sarcasm to not be like cringe, but also not be like girl boss or anything like that. She's awesome. She's awesome, and it is kind of approaching that danger point of everyone that meets her is like Sookie Stackhouse. Everyone wants to get with her when they meet her. That's really my only real red flag at this point. I know a lot of people, a lot of guys have been concerned about the romance. It's there, and it does kind of feel like you're forcing something. But again, that's like in the background. That's not the main part of the story here. And that's the way I like it, like a Buffy season where you had the romance, you had the love story, but the big bad was always the central part of the story, and I feel like it's doing a good job with that. And I want to know more about her background. I think they're doing a great job of setting that up. So again, couples that write together stay together, and Ilona Andrews as a team, a husband and wife writing team, is a really, really good plan, and I feel like it's worked really, really well so far. But guys, as you know, there can only be one book of the month. So which is it? I actually came down to a pretty close race here. When you're dealing with a lot of sequel books, because besides Philip Fracassi, these are all sequel books, it gets kind of hard to say, hey, where am I going to place this? Because it kind of depends on what comes before, what comes after in a series or whatever. So that's kind of what narrowed it down for me, and I came to a book I really, really enjoyed this month, and that was the Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre. A giant thunderstorm has just opened up behind me here, so if you see lots of cuts in this video, that is why. With this, I really enjoyed the mystery of it. Now, it was like once you kind of got the reveal, it kind of went iffy for me, but I really liked the relationship between the two main characters. I thought it was actually quite endearing and much more emotion in a book like this than I would expect in just a slasher story, So it had those slasher elements that I think someone like me that grew up with 80s slasher horror really will like. But I think my favorite parts of the book were really the mystery of wondering what in the world is actually happening here. Who is the culprit? Now, the culprit reveal was kind of, I don't know how I felt about that. There was some things left a little bit ambiguous about the final confrontation in the story, and that can kind of make people go one way or the other. For me, it didn't bring the book down at all. But again, I did like the mystery much better than everything else. But I think that if you're looking for modern horror authors who are not going to insult you by just trying to subvert expectations just for the hell of it, making their characters act completely weird for no reason other than, hey, at least you didn't figure it out before it was coming. I feel like it isn't one of those kind of books that you need to do that. If you do figure out who the culprit is, it doesn't really change anything. I don't think that's what it's about. It's definitely about the journey, not the destination with this book. But I had a great time with it. And again, like I said, I think that this is a modern horror author who's approaching the automatic read for me. He's up there with Ronald Malfi, I think, at this point, in that no matter what horror book he writes next, because I think Third World Time Travel was good. I just think his strengths really lie in writing horror. So any horror book he puts out after this, I'm going to try it. I think he's earned that now. Again, I hope to find one as good as Boys in the Valley. That just feels like a generational kind of horror book that I'm really just going to just always go back to. But again, I think having high expectations for a horror author is okay. I don't think that's a problem, really. It's something I feel like they know that. They try to up themselves every single time. And I don't know if Fracassi is exactly that type of writer. Again, I've got a very, very small sample size here. But again, he's earned my trust enough that no matter what horror book he writes next, I'll definitely check it out. And guys, I will say check out the Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre if you haven't. If you like a good slasher, you like a good mystery, it's not overly disgusting, it's not super duper scary. It's more just a little bit more dread, I think, dread based, and I think that's really good. And you like some older protagonists. That's something I feel like is a lot of fun. Imagine Halloween meets what is it? What did I say? Halloween meets Insomnia by Stephen King. That's kind of what it makes me think of. You got your older protagonists, and they're being hunted by something, either internal threat or external threat. You don't know as the story goes along. It's a great, great mystery, great relationships built in this book, and I had a great time with it. And I look very much forward to whatever comes next, guys. This is my book of the month for June, and I'm sorry that it took me so long to read it because, again, Philip Fracassi so far has not disappointed. So how about some of my most popular content for the month, guys? Got a couple of videos that did really, really well, and some other things that just kind of pulled in the back. 2 live streams and 11 standard videos this month. It's about the normal for me. I think more live streams than I usually do because we did have a Illuminati, and I also did a live stream because I did get hired. I did go back to work, and I said I would do a live stream once I got hired for a new job, and it was much earlier than I expected. So that's awesome. That's really, really awesome. Let's look at the ones that performed the best here. Obviously, anytime you talk about Brandon Sanderson, one way or the other, it's going to get attention. That's not why I did it. I just had a lot of people recently asking me, hey, how do you feel about Stormlight Archive? I've heard mixed things about it now. I reviewed Wind and Truth last year, and it got a lot of feedback. Obviously, people were really interested in it. And a lot of comments I get in there was like, it's still worth making the trip? And everybody's like, I remember when the series used to be the next great thing, and now it just feels like it's, it just started its downfall. So the video I made, examining the downfall of the Stormlight Archive, is really me saying, like, is there really a downfall? Because I feel like the series is just as popular as it ever is. Like, if you go into a search bar right now on YouTube and you type in Stormlight Archive, you're going to get millions and millions and millions and millions of results because it is still that popular, regardless of how people feel about it now. And I also was saying that is like, is there really a downfall, or is the audience just a little more divided now? And I think that's definitely a discussion to have. And that's what I wanted to do in that video. It was not me saying, hey, here's why it sucks now. It was definitely me saying, hey, did Brandon change or did we change, as readers? And I think that we can. You read a lot more fantasy over time, and I feel like your tastes will change. I think about where I was with Brandon Sanderson in 2019 when I started this channel versus now. I've read a lot more stuff now than I had ever read before. So, of course, my opinions have changed. I feel like some things in his story have changed, but I think that it's very hyperbolic, the way the conversation's been treated recently about how, oh, the series sucks now, or no, it's just as good as it ever was. I feel like the truth lies somewhere in between, and that's kind of what I talk about in that video. 44,000 views. You guys were very interested in hearing what I had to say about it, because I think people do have their own takes on what's going on with Stormlight Archive now, and it's a discussion that I don't think is going to die down anytime soon. With 10,000 views, I did that live stream. I called it "We're So Back," because I got to go back to work. It worked out kind of perfectly. 2 months off. It's nice to recharge the batteries. I got a new job before my severance ran out. That's always great. Not having to stress over those things, not having to touch your emergency funds, things like that. It was luck. I lucked out. It was very much a chance thing, a word of mouth. Someone reached out to my previous employer and asked where they could find me, and they wanted to hire me, and it worked out quite well. So I'm very thankful. Started on Wednesday. It's too early to call, but I feel very, very good about it. It's right next. It's like a mile down the street from my old office, so nothing really has changed as far as the preparation and things like that. But it was fun to have a live stream and kind of talk with you guys because it was fun. It was fun. It's fun to have some time off, obviously. But in the end, I'm a creature of habit. I like routine. I love routine, and I'm glad to be getting back into it. Books that everyone says I'll hate, but I want to try anyways. I know, because I just love some controversy. Not really. 9,000 views. I think over time, you have people who are with you as a viewer of your channel for a long time, and they feel like they get to know what it is that your likes and your dislikes are. And a lot of times, most of the times, you guys are right. They'll tell me there's a book I'm probably not going to like. And I do. I read it and don't like it. But then there's other times, like Tad Williams or James Clavell, where people told me I was not going to like those books, and they're some of my favorite books ever. So I don't think it's always true. And then there's some of those where it's just like, well, I got to know for myself. Because I always tell you guys, don't take my word for it. Read it for yourself. Make up your own mind. That's kind of how I feel about some of these books that I'm really interested in, and people just tell me you are not going to like that book. I'm telling you. I mean, I can't talk to Brian over at Bell2 without him telling me a book I'm going to hate. So, so it made me want to make this video. And I had some interesting feedback on some of those books that I list on there and kind of talk about why I still want to read them. And, if you guys are right, of course, I'll say, hey, you were right. If not, I will absolutely say that too, because I love to talk about how people told me I was going to hate Shogun, and it was my book of the year that I read it. But we'll see. We'll see. It was a fun list to make. As was my banned books video. Now, this was why famous books were banned and what it says about us. And this has 8,000 views. Now, this is the video I spent the most time on over the month because I really, really dug into themes of these books and what exactly was the lightning rod for the controversy for them when the time period that they came out or when they were trying to be banned. And I know all it's going to get is people just being like, well, are they really banned? You can walk into any bookstore and buy them. That's not what the video was about. The video, to me, was more about why did people want to ban these books at the time? People, whoever wanted to ban them. So I kind of go into, why they wanted to ban them, who exactly was trying to ban them, and what did it say about the group of people, I think. And it really just goes to show over time that society changed, that what's normal, what's accepted, it changes. And some people are very, very difficult when it comes to change. They don't want anything to change. They like the way that things are. And I think as humans, we're like that. I just said I love routine, so I understand that. But some of the things looking at in there is like, well, a lot of times humanity doesn't like it when you hold that mirror up and show them themselves, and I think that's what a lot of the banning of those books or attempted banning for them were. But in my opinion, I love all those books. I only talked about ones I've actually read, and I don't love them all. There are a couple in there I'm like, no, I didn't like it at all. But, you know, I want to recognize their place in history as why were these books such a lightning rod for controversy. But that was a fun conversation to have because I've never really talked about banned books on the channel because I usually try to shy away from anything that could be considered a controversial topic. That's just not what I'm here for. I'm here to share the love of reading, you know, but I can look at things like that and say, objectively, here's why some of these books that are considered American classics, or not just American classics, just classics overall, are books that are just going to get a lot of attention one way or the other, and exactly what got us there. And then my spooky season hopefuls for 2026. That's a rather new video, but it's at 5,000 views. I kind of wanted to do the same thing I do with my new series every year because I'm still struggling to find modern horror authors I love. Obviously, Fracassi's joined the list. Malfi's on there. I really like what I've read of Anya Allborn, of Katrina Ward. You know, there's some authors that have hit for me, but I still feel like there's more authors I can discover. And they don't have to be new ones. They can just be some authors I've never read. So I know that very much the minority of viewers on my channel are horror fans. It's mostly SFF here, but there are a lot of people here that are here just for some of the horror content. And I kind of want to open this up for discussion, just like I do with the new series, where I take you guys' recommendations. I want you to drop in the comments, tell me, make some recommendations for me, and I can check them out. And that's going to help me decide which books I read this spooky season. So if you haven't commented on that video yet, please do. Because like I said, I'm going to read all those comments, and that's when I'm going to make my decision before spooky season. Sometime in September, I'll make that list of the books I'm going to read in spooky season. So you guys still have a chance to help influence what I do read this October. Because in the end, like I say all the time, I want to read books you guys want me to talk about because that's why I am here. So please check that video out if you haven't and make some recommendations to me. I don't care what kind of horror it is. I think there's a place for all kinds of horror. As long as it's not like lit RPG horror. I don't know. I don't know if that's my thing or not, but I would definitely listen for sure. But how about some goals for July? I got a couple here. Now that I've returned to work, obviously, finding that work-life balance again, because the first couple of days back at work, it was like a madhouse trying to figure out how to do everything here. And I just want to make sure that I get back to that. I want to get back to recording my videos in advance like this instead of trying to do them in the weeknights because that can just be very, very frustrating. But sometimes it's just a lack of time or effort or energy. You know, when you first start a new job, it feels like you're exerting so much energy at first, and then you get home and you have that huge crash out. I want to kind of try to avoid that. But it's only the third job I've had in the last like 15 years, guys. So it's very it's still new territory. I feel like to me because I was with my last company for 5 years, and one before that I was with it for 12 years. So it's not anything that a lot of people change jobs a lot. I'm not one of them. I'm a creature of habit and routine. I get comfortable where I'm at. So just trying to find that balance again should be something fun. I did say last month that I finished writing my story. Finish was a very, very poor choice of words. I guess what you could say is I completed my rough draft, and rough is absolutely a word for it because after 2+ weeks of editing on it, oh my lord, it's very, very it's something. It's kind of what I said when I started. I think the idea is really good, but I don't possess the craft for writing really good. You know, so I know you're your own worst enemy when it comes to things like that. But, you know, I have those days where I'm like, hey, I'm onto something here. And then the next day I'm like, wow, this is terrible. We can't let anybody ever see this. Good news is I'm shaving thousands of words out of my word count. Because I tell people, like, how did you write almost 600,000 words in 8 months? And it's like, if you could see what I was writing, it's like, I have an idea. I'm going to write some dialogue I want there to be. But it's unreadable, guys. It is not put in a story format. It's just stuff I wanted to get out of my head, get on paper. And basically said, it almost reads more like a movie script, I think. It's like where I'm explaining what the characters are going to do and what they're going to say than what they're actually doing. So this would be something that editing this would take a couple of years probably. Now, as long as it is, I'd say I would probably want to release it in 5 parts. If I ever released it, I know that's the word, but it's one of those where I would like to separate it, obviously, to make it more palatable than saying, hey, here's a 500,000+ word story. So I'm thinking, just guesstimating off of the way I've started, I will shave at least 100,000 words out of this, at least, because again, a lot of it is just more thoughts and ideas than an actual story. But I also know I'm probably just being very, very hard on myself because I've had days where I'm editing and I'm just like, this is just dog water. You can't do this to yourself. But then there's other days I'm like, I really like this. I really like what I did, and I already miss these characters. So to me, that says I did something okay. I don't know. We'll see. And then I kind of just keep on keeping on with the inheritance cycle reading, making sure that I do finish it this time. It feels really good getting some series off your list. I'm still going to finish the Unwind Dystology. I'm still going to finish Saga the Forgotten Warrior this year. You know, so there are some series that I still want to get off of my list of series to complete this year. And yeah, Malazan's right around the corner. People have been asking about Malazan already, thinking I'm already kicking it down the road another year. No, I just want to finish Inheritance Cycle first. I think that getting one big fantasy series off the list, obviously, before you start to finish another one. The plan right now is September, take a month off for spooky season, and then November, December for the last 2 books. That's the plan right now for Malazan. Canon will change, but it is still very much in the hard plans to finish Malazan this year. So all you people that are like, oh, I'll bet you money that you aren't going to finish this year, I can tell you where to send the check. I got my link to my, I got the address for my P.O. box right below in the description. So you want to go ahead and get that check drafted and ready. It's going to happen. So challenge accepted, I do think. But guys, that was the month of June. Love to know how June went for you. What was your book of the month? What was your favorite or least favorite video that I put out this month? Please drop in the comments and let me know. I would love to hear it. And if you're going to check this out, let me know that too, because I definitely think that you would dig it, even if you're not a major horror fan. I think there's plenty of things for you to like here. So drop in the comments, guys, and let me know, and I will talk to you there.